Hey, launch team, wanted to follow up from last night. It was awesome to have everybody at the parlor. Somebody told me we had 52 adults and 14 kids at the event last night, the Vision Night, which was absolutely amazing. It was great to see everybody and be together, and just blown away at what God is already doing in this church plant. And wanted to follow up with a little recap video, and I'm going to do two other videos as well. One, to just kind of dive into how do you pursue people who are far from God in this season and make the most of these next few months where we really have an open door to pursue people who are in our lives that are far from Jesus that maybe we haven't pursued as much in the past. And secondly, I'm going to do a video kind of laying out and describing a little more about Vision 2020, a resource initiative we're going to kick off here in a month or so. And so just a little recap from last night. First thing, exciting news. The name of the church plant is King's Church. K-I-N-G, Jesus is King. King's Church, Kansas City. So thrilled about that name. And if you're not celebrating in front of your phone or your computer right now, just go ahead and give a shout to Jesus and say, "You're the King." Love the name. Get on social media, and you can follow us on Facebook, King's Church KC. You can follow us on Instagram at King's Church KC, all one word. And follow us on there. Like everything. Comment on the post. I love this. So excited. Share it with your friends. Repost it. Just get the word out about King's Church. Thrilled about what God is doing there. Also, just a reminder, our launch Sunday is penciled in for September 13th. That'll be our first Sunday service. We don't know where yet. We don't know what facility yet, but pencil that date in because it's going to be a huge Sunday to invite everyone we know. And I just believe God's going to do amazing things with that. Also, the first startup party. So the first opportunity we have to invite friends, family, neighbors, coworkers to come and hear about what we're doing as a church, just learn more, as well as hear the gospel. So these startup parties, I want it to be informational. Hey, we're a new church in town. We'd love for you to be a part, but also just want to believe that God's going to bring people who are far from Him to faith in Jesus Christ before we ever have our first Sunday. So as you're meeting people out in the community, friends, family, neighbors, etc., please invite them to this startup party. And I just believe God's going to do great things in their life. And we never want to say someone's no for them. We never want to say, oh, they wouldn't come. But hey, let's just invite them and see what God does. So that's March 1st at 5:30 p.m. at the Parlor, which we have invite cards like this, King's Church. That's a temporary logo, by the way. This will change in a month or so. Temporary logo. That's the invite card. And then there's the card with all the details. So we passed these out last night. I've got probably 1,000 left if you want them, maybe 500 left if you want them. Just get in touch with me. Would love to get you more of these so you can invite everyone you know to our first startup party at the Parlor. It's a huge opportunity to invite people, and like I said, especially people far from God. Last thing I want to say in this video is there's 4 things I laid out last night that if you want to make the most of this season, these are 4 things that you can do to make a massive impact. Number 1, pray fervently and consistently. Just carve out time in your day and your week where you're setting aside time to pray for your friends and your family, your neighbors, your coworkers who are far from God, and to pray for our city and this church plant. And so if you're anything like me, structure helps me. And so I have a list like this, my prayer list, where I just put on a page everyone I know, my neighbors, friends, people I'm meeting at coffee shops, and I start praying for them. It's the first thing I do, just start praying for people who are far from God. And then from that list, just asking God every week, God, who do you want me to bless this week? Whose life do you want me to pour into? Which we'll talk about more in the next video. So pray fervently and consistently. It's one thing you can do in this season to make a huge impact. Secondly, pursue people who are far from God. And I just want to encourage you, 7 months is going to go by fast. September 13th is going to be here before we know it. Make a plan. Make a plan for what you're going to do this week to pursue people who are far from God. Make a plan for what you're going to do this month to pursue people who are far from God. For Rebecca and I, we're saying, you know what, we're going to have a couple nights a week where we're having people in our home who are far from God. Neighbors, people we meet out, just say, hey, come in our home. We'd love to feed you dinner. That's what we're going to do. We're just going to love on people. We're not going to feel pressure to bring up Jesus. We believe God will give us favor to do that in the right time. We're just going to love on people the best we can by having them in our home for dinner. I think that'd be a great thing to do. I've joined a few clubs. I joined a running club. I'm getting involved in CrossFit. Hopefully that'll get me in some sort of shape because I'm out of shape right now. I'm just trying to do the dad life, but joining those clubs so that I can meet people, and then those people I'll invite into our home. You could do things like that, but the biggest thing is make a plan and pray your guts out that God will use you to do that and then invite everybody you meet to this startup party on March 1st. Third thing, serve people. Serve people. We want to come in not just to do church, but to be the church, to be the hands and feet of Jesus in Kansas City. So I'm asking you, will you serve people? That'll be friends, neighbors, coworkers, etc. Serve them, love them, give them your best, treat them like Jesus treats them by coming not to get but to give. But also we have two big opportunities with City Union Mission to serve the homeless in our city, as well as with Operation Breakthrough to love on and care for kids in schools that need mentors, that need teacher assistants, etc. You can ping me, email me, text me, or Joe Evans, Sarah Carollo, or Chelsea Smith. We can all get you information about that, and would love to help you serve. Get connected with that. Fourthly, give generously. First thing is just be faithful to God with the tithe. The tithe is a principle that carries all throughout the scriptures, where we give our first and our best to God, and that is the first 10% of our income. We give faithfully to God's church. And so whatever comes in our way, whatever God gives to us, we entrust back to Him the first 10% in the tithe. I just want to ask you to be faithful and obedient to Jesus with the tithe. This may be new for you. You may need help with that. I have 4 people lined up who said, I can be a financial mentor for anyone who needs help getting set up, just learning how to be faithful with their finances and a good steward. Would love to connect you with those people if you need that. I want to just say, hey, let's be obedient to Jesus. The best thing we can do in this season is say yes to Him. And doing that with our money and our resources is a big deal. So number 1, be faithful with the tithe. Number 2, I have a card that kind of lays out what this is, but Vision 2020, our vision for launching this church with the greatest strength that we can and positioning ourselves to be a church, planting church that makes an impact in Kansas City and the cities of the world. Vision 2020 is just a little thing we're doing to say, you know what, let's give God and give this city our first and our best, and let's really sow into this city with our finances so that we can see God do a great work in this city. We don't have to worry about money. I feel no burden to raise money for the sake of raising money. Actually, our Confluence family of churches is behind us 110%. But I believe together, on top of our tithe, so Vision 2020 is in addition to our tithe. So our tithe is just obedience to Jesus. Vision 2020 are the gifts and offerings, where generosity really kicks in. The gifts and offerings that are above and beyond our tithe. On the back of this card, you'll see if we just laid out, man, if one person gave $15,000, if 2 people gave that much, if 10 people gave this much, I believe we could raise $75,000 before we launch this church on top of our tithes and offerings to help us launch a life-giving, reproducing church in Kansas City, which in the next video, I'll get into this a little bit more. But I just want to say, if we don't raise that, our Confluence family is behind us 110%. This is us sowing into our city. 1 Corinthians tells us, he who sows abundantly will reap abundantly. We want to sow abundantly into our city. So give generously. It's the 4th thing. Pray fervently. Pursue people far from God. Serve people and give generously. Launch team, I love you so much. I'm so thankful to God for the fact that we get to do this together. This is just the beginning. 52 people, 52 adults, 14 kids in that room last night. I'm looking around saying, man, this is the beginning of a dream come true. I'm excited for our future together, and I just want to ask you, be praying your guts out for what God wants to do. I believe He's doing a great work in and through this church plant and in this city. He is going before us, and He will go behind us. Love you, and I'll catch you in the next 2 videos.